Welcome to the CP Media Platform, brought to you by Team CP, your endurance coaching specialist. I'm Angus Petrie, and as always, alongside me, team captain, head honcho of Team CP himself, Richard Greer. Welcome back to another Wednesday.
Look at that. You're getting good at that, Angus. What a welcome.
Just about nailed it, Richard. Just about nailed it.
Practicing it in the shower most mornings. Like it.
What's happening, Rich? How's your week been?
No, things are going well. We've just had another good team Zwift session just now, and the weather's been beautiful in the last couple of days. So good to get out for a couple of midday runs, but looking forward to putting the gumboots on the next couple of days.
That's lucky for some to be able to get out for a midday run, Richard. Lucky for some. Zwift was very good tonight, Richard. And so if you're out there and you're a current member or part of our community, get in touch with us. If you want to partake in Wednesday night Zwift sessions with us as a group ride, we'd love to have you on board.
Yeah, no, it's good fun, absolutely. And just on those runs, they're only like 15 minutes, 18 minutes, whipping the dog around the block, so it's not crazy. So it's not going this hours or so in the hills.
A run's a run and it all counts, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Tonight's show, we've got Paul Botha we're going to finish up with. Paul is an endurance ultra runner, so we're going to finish off with him tonight. We're going to talk with Cushla. We're talking mental skills tonight as a whole. So Kushla's going to delve into a little bit more of the mental sort of side of eating, I guess, in terms of how we manage that and some tricks and things that we can use there. But speaking mental skills, we're going to kick off with John Quinn. And I really like this stuff. This is just fantastic. It's really mental skills, the psychology of it all, it really starts there. So John Quinn, really stoked to have him on the program. John is a mental skills coach, been doing it for a number of years, worked with a whole bunch of athletes at teams from the high-end performance side of things, from the New Zealand Rugby to Crusaders to Canterbury Cricket, etc., all the way down, I guess not all the way down, everyone's performing at their level and seeing how good they can be, from businesses to individuals as well. So yeah, should we welcome John aboard?
We should. I shouldn't I? There somewhere. There he is. Welcome, good. John.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
How are you getting on, John?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah, it's been really good the last few weeks. The weather's been outstanding, really. So it's actually been nice to actually get outside and do the things we probably wouldn't normally be doing this time of year because of the weather. So no, it's been great.
Brilliant. Really excited to talk to you tonight and give our team a few insights how they can improve their performance. And one of the things we always talk about is how can you improve your performance with the least possible effort. So it's not just about doing another run and doing another run and doing another run. It's like, actually, I can be a bit smarter with some of this stuff and the way I think about things and the way I actually go about my day, which will then affect how I move and how I end up performing.
Yeah, look, it is, and I think sometimes we want the big rocks, we want the big things that will make a change, and it's often the smallest little things, doing those little small things consistently actually create the biggest change. And we are a bit of a society at the moment that wants a quick fix to things. Now, the reality is, if you want to perform, doesn't matter whether it's in work or sport, it takes time. So understand what those little things are and being consistent with those is the key part, because most of us struggle to stay consistent with that stuff.
Yeah, and on that, let's just talk about that, because we've just come out of lockdown. When for most of us, even those people that were working full time, lives have been pretty crazy and busy, but then also taken down a notch and actually had a chance to kind of reflect and think, what do I do? Get into some good habits and routines and things. And now we're back into work and busyness. And I'm not sure about you, John, but kids' sport, dashing around the place, all of a sudden things are busy. And how do we we've got into some good habits and routines. How do we try and continue that now that we are busy and managing the time side of things? What are some things that you sort of share with us there from your experience?
Look, I think that's a really good question, and I think the lockdown for many, if your job is reasonably secure and you weren't worried about finances, lockdown for many people was a good experience. And as you said, it gave people a chance to kind of sit back and actually, almost smell the roses and have time to do things. So I think the key thing when we get back into kind of post-lockdown is not kind of try and rush back to the old normal. It's really important to kind of sit back and go, well, what could this now look like? And the reality is you've got to kind of be realistic about what you can actually change and what you can't change. The first big thing is almost kind of reflecting on what are my goals now, which is kind of the 101 stuff, but goals that actually will drive your habits. If you're clear on where you want to go, then there's a bit of a why around your habits, and then it's probably being realistic around what your day can actually look like, and probably challenging the myth around what a work day can look like. I mean, most of us, we only work well for about 90 minutes. We actually need a bit of a break. So what that can look like for you during the day, and get away from the habits of working at the desk and having lunch at the desk and that sort of stuff. So it's probably sitting back and going, well, what does my week now look like, and actually creating a sustainable week, and knowing at times it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't matter if you're a full-time athlete or a part-time athlete. It's never going to be perfect. So it's probably getting some real clarity around what can your week, where are the gaps you can actually do things, and what will that look like basically around it. And the reality is, even if you get that all right, it's still hard. And I think sometimes we think of our habits and routines are in place, it should be easy, and particularly the sports you guys work in there, it's tough. You're running, you're cycling, you're pushing yourself, so it is really challenging. So making sure you're creating habits around that recovery piece becomes really important too. And probably the biggest one, and you guys probably touched this tonight too, with the nutrition, but the nutrition and sleep part becomes even more important. Doesn't matter what your habits are like, if you're not actually giving yourself a chance to recover, eat well and sleep well, it's very hard to then wake up the next day wanting to continue that stuff basically around it. So once you understand your habits, it's trying to make things really easy then. So for most people, if you've got to train in the morning, simple stuff like have your food ready in the morning before you get up, pack your bag ready, have all your gym stuff at the end of the bed. Don't create reasons not to train. So try and make it really easy. And for most of us, I think what we missed during the lockdown was probably that social connection. So look to buddy up with people who are like-minded, who can support you on those days when the motivation does drop. Because remember, we don't need to be motivated all the time. We just need to be dedicated. And that comes back to having clarity of goals, because I think sometimes people want to feel good to train. Well, you're not going to feel good, and even this week in Christchurch when it's -2 in the morning, and you wake up at 5:36. Well, your bed is it's a pretty good place to be. But if you're clearing where you want to go, sometimes it's hard, but having people around you can help you, support you around that.
Yeah, John, is work one of work is such a big thing in everybody's lives. And obviously we've been through lockdown, and a lot of people didn't go to work for a period of time, and they were motivated to run and motivated to ride and all those sort of things. And then we go back to work and it falls off. Is that work balance one of the biggest things that you see that people need to actually get right first before they actually start any exercise goals or anything like that? Is that where we should be starting, getting that work-life balance?
Yeah, look, we do. We've just got to be careful with that work-life balance, because it implies that there's balance. It's not. The reality is you're going to spend 40 hours at work. You're not going to spend 40 hours doing much else during the week. So it's just getting really clarity around the language we use, and being realistic about what it can look like, and where you're trying to go. So it is understanding, if you've got a job that's really, you're at the end of a shovel all day, it's a real labour-intensive job, well, you've got to be realistic about what you're going to be like at 5 o'clock to train. And then if you are going to train at 5 o'clock, and you guys will touch this later on, then the nutrition part becomes really important, of how you're feeding yourself. Because as I said, it's, as you guys know, there's many pieces to this jigsaw puzzle. It's not just one piece. You can't just say, I just want to be motivated all the time and then not sleep very well, not have habits and routines, and not eat very well, because it's not going to work. So it's almost sitting down, and this is the bit I've learned from the top athletes. It's just the detail they'll go to. It's not they're any better. But what they will do on a Sunday night is they sit there and go, right, what's my week? What have I got coming up? And then be realistic about it. So if you've got a job that it's going to be really busy that week, well, maybe it's ease off the training a wee bit and make sure the work's done really well. If you're a student that's a really busy week with study, well, don't try and do everything at 100%, because you tend to do nothing then very well. So it's the ability to kind of plan the week out. And this is the bit we struggle with, because we don't think we have to do it. So it's actually taking the time to kind of sit back and go, right, Sunday night, right, what's next week looking like? Let's plan what it can look like. And be realistic about it, and knowing that at times it will be a challenge, and that's where you have your buddies or your little things that kind of push you through it. But there's not a magic wand to this. I think people at times want it, or they want it to feel good around it. So it's understanding, okay, what does my week look like, and how do I make it realistic around it?
And I think you just touched on something there that, Richard, actually you might be able to help quantify there a bit. That, like you say, if you're working long and hard, or studying or whatever, trying to train at 100% or something, and Richard's given you this great big training program, and you need to hit all these things, that actually you're better to talk with your coach or talk with her and actually dial it back. Don't feel bad about actually dialing it back 80%, because you're better, Richard, am I correct, to do
100%.
a really committed 80% effort against a half-assed 100%?
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. You just, at the end of the day, you've got to listen to your body. And as John said, like the sleep and nutrition and all those things really feed into that, don't they? And the key thing I think you've said, John, so far is just be realistic with what your expectations are. And I think the other thing around habits is that habits are about, if things are a habit, you don't have to think about it. It's just what you do. So then I just got to get my feet on the floor at 6 a.m. because that's what I always do, and it feels normal, and that's what I have for breakfast, so it feels normal. So then you don't have to think about stuff so much and plan because that's just what I do.
And also, look, it takes a while to get into some habits. So, if you're going to change
Yeah.
something, don't expect to get it the first day. It can take anywhere from 2 or 3 weeks to start creating that habit. But, we're professional sports are reasonably lucky when we GPS the athletes. Then what we do on a Monday is we look at what their workloads have been that week or in the week game that weekend. Then we adjust their programs. So it's done at the top level too. Obviously, you won't necessarily have GPS then, but if you've had a really busy weekend or a really full-on week or some comps during the weekend, you've got to be realistic around what your body will give you and what it won't give you. It doesn't keep going forever. There's a finite point to it. So I suppose the easy way about habits and routines is reflect when you're at your best. What does that look like and feel like? Then kind of think, well, what gets me there? What are the key things I do on a consistent basis, from relationships to your work, to your downtime, to your sleep, all these sort of things that get there. Then how do you create that really consistent?
Yeah, nice work.
We've talked about that now, about getting some training in and getting to all of that point. But John, I want to tonight talk about a couple of different topics, event related, I suppose, and how we get our mental head around some of those key things that every athlete deals with, no matter how many times you've done a race or whatever. I guess let's start at the start. Controlling nerves. Everybody has those butterflies and needs that little wee at the start before we go. How do we get our head around that and get a focus on that start sequence?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things around that. One, it probably starts 3 months out. It's your preparation. So what we know is when we get nervous, it's a normal response. So let's don't see nerves as being a negative. As you said, it's more around managing those nerves, and we can touch on some micro skills around that in a minute. But the key thing is around, you look at it, it's like going for an exam. If you've done the preparation for the exam and you've got a bit of clarity about what's going to happen in the exam, and you've done the study, you'll tend to walk into the exam with a bit of confidence. And it's the same with any event. If you don't do the preparation, if you haven't got clarity around what the event's going to look like, if you haven't gone your plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, then the brain will start going, hey, this ain't safe. So it's really then hard to kind of convince yourself that it's okay. So it's around the actual preparation leading up to the event, which is the most important part. And again, you look at the top athletes, or even the ones who are consistent, it's just the detail they will go to. And it doesn't take a lot of time to go to the detail, but it's understanding what you need to know. So when you're in the start line, you've got clarity. Because for me, clarity then builds confidence. Confidence doesn't build clarity. Then if you've done all that and you're still on the start line, your head's starting to shift places. Simple things we talk about, the stop acronym, where basically is this literally S is just stop and pause, step back, then just take a breath, which sounds simple, but we know when we start getting anxious, we either hold our breath or we get shortness of breath. So literally just breathe 3 or 4 times, nose to mouth, just get it going. Observe your body. Notice what you feel. Are you feeling tight in the shoulders? Cool, just drop the shoulders. Am I feeling tight in my arms? Okay, let's just loosen my arms. And then the P then is proceed to the next thing. And often what we talk to athletes about is have somewhere to go mentally. So it could be at the start of a running race, you might just be going, right, I've done that, so I'm a little bit calmer now. So all I'm going to do now is just rub my hands, and just feel my hands, and just actually focus on my hands. Or I might just actually go, right, I'm just really going to notice my breath and just want to focus back to my breath. And then next minute, negative thought comes in. Cool, let it come in. Don't stop it. Then bring yourself back to your breath. You might just be standing there and just feel your feet on the ground. Push your big toe into your left toe into your left shoe. Feel your sock. All you're trying to do is bring yourself present into that moment. Because if you talk around anxiety, often we're either worried about the future or the past, because the mind's racing. So we average 45 thoughts a minute. On the start line, you might be up to 145. So what we want to try and do is slow that down and bring it into one focus. So the key thing about that is then it's about practicing those things. So how do I practice being focused? Well, practice, if you're in a relationship, practice being present when your partner talks to you. It's a win-win scenario, basically. When you're at work, practice focus.
Great advice.
Practice focusing at work. Well, look, it is, because the reality is we're in a society now that's not very present, because we don't need to be. Because if I'm bored, I just get my phone out and I use my phone. So I can go somewhere else. So it's our ability to be okay and stand there. So if you're not used to stand there without, with nothing, it's really hard. So that's why often athletes, especially endurance ones, I challenge them, be wary of how much music you use when you're running, because it's a great distraction, music. Now, the reality is, unless you can use that in the race, it's you're not trained the way you want to compete. So if you're running for whatever the time is in the race, but then in the practice you're doing the same run, but you got your music. Now, music's a great way of just taking the pain away, taking yourself away. So we actually got to practice this sitting and being present. And for a lot of us, we don't do that enough. We just don't sit. So long story short, preparation around it. making sure you got clarity around the race, what it looks like, and you've done the preparation and you've done what you need to do. And then on the start line, it's just making sure you can bring yourself back into that present moment. Sometimes you might do that 20 times because the mind is really racing. Cool. Back to my breath, let the thought go, bring myself back into it. Other times you do it once and you might just settle there. So finding something to focus on becomes important.
Brilliant. One thing that I talk a lot about is planning and having like an event plan. What are you going to do? But that actually starts the night before as well. So actually writing some of those things down and actually knowing what time we're going to get out of bed, what am I going to have for breakfast, what time we're going to leave the house, what time am I going to get to the event, and then it just means that I can A, B, C, D, and I can do that. And then also that gets into the event. What time am I going to stand on the start line, and what do I need to do? What's the pace am I going to run off the start line? And then I only need to focus on the first little bit, and then that's okay. I don't need to think too far ahead. Just do it now and follow my plan. And if I follow my plan, I can walk forward to the challenge rather than thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen today?
Look, you just nailed it. I mean, as I said, it's doing the simple things well and consistently. The brain doesn't like to hesitate. Okay, so if you got clarity, it won't hesitate. Once it starts hesitating, it starts second guessing itself. When we start second guessing itself, we start thinking. When we start thinking, generally that's when we get ourselves in a bit of trouble. So as you said, Richard, if you've got that real clarity on what you need to do, when you need to do it, it means you're on the start line, you're going, yep, I've got this. Do I know if I'm going to win? I've got no idea, but that's the whole excitement part, isn't it? How's it going to go? That's the whole exciting part, hopefully, for most people.
And being okay with that as well.
Yeah, so you can't outperform your preparation.
Yeah. So while we're standing on the start line, John, and I'm standing next to Richard, and I'm feeding him the smack talk and telling him that I'm going to deal to him up the first climb. How does he block that out? What got any just like really quick tips to there's always plenty of banter on a start line, especially at a cycle race about especially when you know the people. I guess in communities you sort of tend to race against the same sort of people, so there's a bit of that. How do I stop that getting in?
Especially if you really want to beat that person.
Well, you can't for a start, so don't try. Whatever you resist will persist. Okay, so if you go, don't think about it, don't listen to him, you will keep listening to him. So part of it, again, goes back to preparation and being aware of, okay, who could I be beside? What could happen? Or, okay, Angus is there, he always talks shit. Right, what am I going to do when he starts doing that? I can either, try and remove myself. If I can't remove myself, right, what I'm going to do is this, I'm making this up now, is this either be aware of him talking to me, but just keep practicing letting it go. And then going back to, I'm going to feel my hands in the handlebars. I'm just going to focus on the handlebars and shift it. And that's the thing about it, when you do that well, it's like when you're racing, when you're in that zone, you don't hear people around you. That's real. When we allow that focus to kind of get too wide, then we start hearing people. So again, it's preparing for what could happen. So from a, say, cricket situation, when the boys play against, say, Neil Wagner, now, what are you going to get when you place Neil Magny? You can get short bowling. So unless you practice against short bowling, you're going to find that stuff really difficult because that's all he's going to give you. So it's the same for you guys. It's about being aware, okay, who am I competing against? What are they going to bring? And then what's my response when they do start bringing it? Because this is people want a bit of a trick. There's no trick. You can't block it out because it's just going to keep sitting there and keep coming in basically around it. So part of it, if you find that hard, I'd really encourage you, get beside him even more. Okay? And what I always say, but it's almost your big, you had a brother and you're younger and your brother was giving you a hard time. You just got up and smiled at him. It actually annoys him even more around it. So a nice response is back and smile and kind of look at him and go, if that's all you've got, it's almost reversing it going, if he has to give me that, it means he's worried about me. So if he has to keep giving it to me, it's like, well, good on you, mate. I've got you ready because I'm already in your head.
Yeah, good stuff. This kind of leads into sort of self-esteem and self-confidence. It's a big part of this as well, isn't it? To actually be confident enough to stand next to Angus on the start line. Confident enough, like we work with a whole bunch of different people at all sorts of different levels, and sometimes it's actually just confidence to turn up to a group session. Can I do that? And how am I going to feel? Everybody looks so fit, especially when you turn up to a cycle group session, because everyone's looks the part, even if they're not particularly fast, they look like they are. What are some things that we can do to develop that, I guess, self-esteem, self-confidence, which then feeds into our self-esteem?
Yeah, look, I'd probably just change the wording and say, yes, you need to be courageous. Confidence varies too much. So for me, I'll work with athletes around confidence, but no one can guarantee me they're going to be confident. And confidence does this, it's all over the place. It doesn't stay consistent around it. Courage can be consistent because to be courageous, you need to be scared. So let's normalize being scared. If you're not scared once a week, what are you doing? You're not pushing yourself. You're not trying to do things. The reason your muscles get stronger is you guys put them under fatigue and you push and then you go beyond. but mentally it's the same thing. So if we sit in a really comfort zone, we're not scared, we're not challenged, then we get in those situations, it becomes really hard. So part of it is actually accepting you're probably going to be scared. Okay, so when I'm scared, what do I need to do in that situation? Well, I need to be courageous, right? How do I show courage in that situation? Because if you wait to be confident to do things, it's like if you wait to be confident to go and talk to that girl, hey, you're waiting a long time, aren't you? Because you're never going to be. You're never going to build it up. If you're going to wait to be motivated to go for that first run, yeah, good luck. You're probably not going to be motivated. So it's more about being courageous around it. And then as you start taking those small steps, and you touched on that before, that will slowly start building some confidence. But it's the same thing. It's about, okay, what's my goal? What's my why of the goal? Which is a whole other part to it. But then I'm going, okay, well, it's going to be hard to just accept, okay, I'm going to be a little bit nervous when I go to that first race. I'm probably going to start looking at people. So when I start doing that, what do I need to do? Well, shivers, okay, cool. I've noticed if I start looking at them, it means my focus has shifted. So let's just bring my focus back, basically around it. Goes back to that support. Make sure maybe you go with someone at the start, basically around it. But it's just be okay with not being okay. I think we have this thing in our society, you've got to feel good all the time. Well, that's bullshit. And this is the whole problem with that well-being space, is that well-being is about managing when you're not well. It's not about being well all the time. And I think we've given this false sense of security for everyone, saying, well, if you don't feel good, there's something wrong with you. No, if you don't feel good, you're bloody normal. So let's be okay with not feeling good. Let's be okay with feeling a bit of pressure or a bit of angst. It doesn't mean you can't perform. There wouldn't be an athlete I know who does not feel nervous, as you said, but what they've learned is just to accept that's how it's going to be. And once you accept it, it goes back to, again, just breathe, bring my focus back in. And again, it comes back to your goal. If you set unrealistic goals around what you're going to do, that will create even more pressure around it. So it's just doing those little things really well and being okay to take that first step and going, yeah, this is a bit scary, but awesome. This is how I'm going to grow.
Yeah. And just before we slide on there, but just going back to that nerves thing, just listening to you there, John, what we're actually saying is that possibly that nerves are one of the best things you can have on the start line, because if you're following what you're saying and the nerves come on and things, and that forces you to stop and focus and think about all those other things, then actually those nerves have actually put you in a better place than what you would have been if you just rolled up casually to take the start.
Yeah. Look, what our body does really well is when it hurts itself, it tells us there's pain. Okay, so it's really clear. If you got up now and you rolled your ankle, your body would go, hey, you've hurt your ankle because there's pain. The brain doesn't do that. And we're not very good at being aware of that. So we all think we're self-aware, and we're not. We're not very good at being really aware of how we feel and what we're thinking. We're very lazy with our thoughts, and often an example I give, if you had a chair beside you and a big horse came in and shat in that chair and put a big smelly shit in the chair, you're not going to go and sit in that chair because it's full of shit. But if you were sitting there now, with really shitty thoughts and negative thoughts, we just sit there and we take it. It's our ability to kind of go, well, thoughts aren't real. Okay, 50 to 60,000 a day we have them. All they are, they're not demands, they're not instructions, they're just thoughts and they're random. So it's our ability to go, we need to spend more time just acknowledging where they are and how they make us feel. So if we start feeling nervous, it's about, okay, cool, this is my body telling me to get ready. Nerves, excitement, very similar feelings at times. It's about going, okay, so if I now manage these nerves, I'm actually going to use that adrenaline to push on through it, not kind of go, oh gosh, I'm nervous, I can't perform around it. But again, it comes back to, if you feel the nervous, right, intervention. If you hurt your ankle, intervention, rice it, rest it, elevate, compression, all those things. With our brain, it's the same thing. We need to sometimes do an intervention, and that could just be that ability just to stop, pause. And I know it's going to sound simplistic, but go to breath. I mean, I haven't seen a way of calming down that does not require breathing around it. So it's just doing those simple things consistently.
Yeah, good job.
So next question, and this is sort of one of my favorite topics where I want to go here. This is great, but you just mentioned about how the body hurts and it lets you know that it's hurting and things. We often in endurance races or even in short races, cyclocross is 50 minutes of it, but we go into the hurt locker, or what we call the hurt locker, or the box, or the and the body goes into its pain. Some people deal with that well. Some people thrive on it. I quite enjoy a little bit of suffering and get my kicks out of a bit of suffering. But other people struggle when they get to that, and then actually being able to see, if you're halfway up a climb and you're deep in the hurt box, actually trying to grab that mental bit of stability to get you through. Have we got any insights into dealing with that, John?
Yeah, look, I suppose there's a couple for me. One is our language, and often when I talk to athletes, particularly ones who there is a pain aspect to it, we change the language to, it's the performance locker. It's the place you get better. around it. So it's almost that mental preparation around, this is a place I want to be. It's not a bad place, because again, pain is seen as a negative. Well, actually, pain probably means you're either finishing the race or you're pushing yourself. Basically, you don't get pain in the first K. If you do, that's probably the wrong pain you want around it. So sometimes it's how you want to reframe and look at what pain is and the language we see around it. So again, it's like, you can either, there's two parts. So you can either look to distract yourself and bring a focus into something else, or you can actually just enjoy the pain. Because at the end of the day, pain is like any other emotion around it, and you can just become mindful of feeling the pain and acknowledging it's okay. It doesn't mean you have to stop. It just means it's your body saying, this is where I'm going. So again, athletes do two different things. For me, it's that some of them just enjoy it, as you said. Some of them go, right, I just need to distract myself. So I'm just going to focus on driving my arms. I'm going to focus on that spot on the ground in front of me and practice taking their head away from where the pain is. So the key thing around it takes practice. And just because you get really good at it doesn't mean you'll be consistent with it. There'll be sometimes it's just harder than others. But if you've had a really busy week, we're a little bit less resilient to doing it when we are fully 100% basically around it. So again, it comes back to that. It sounds a bit touchy-feely, but the compassion part, being okay when you don't quite get it right, and the times that, 1 week you go for a run, you nail it, next week you go for a run, you don't, and kind of go, oh, shivers, that wasn't good. No, sometimes that happens. It doesn't matter who you are in the world, we don't always perform around it. So it's just, treating yourself with compassion, ensuring your self-talk has compassion becomes really important around it. But there's not like this little switch you can flick, but I just think the people who see it as being a positive, practice get into that space. The same thing if you're training harder than the actual event, the event becomes the easy part. Train easy and try and play hard, a little bit harder.
Yeah, I tend to think like one of the key challenges with that is that when you're in that space, it feels like it's going to be there. You're going to be there forever, and I can't be like this is just horrible. I don't like it. And one of the things I try and tell myself is I can be here. I can be here right now, because often it's I can be here right now, but if I start thinking another 10 minutes, I don't think I can do this anymore. So I'm going to slow down. Yep. So it's that like being present right now, isn't it?
Oh, look at it. I read a book in the lockdown that talked about, we don't run out of willpower, we run out of self-talk. And I think that's really true. Is that when it gets hard, if we can't reply to the brain going, what are you doing? If you can't reply with a good answer, the brain will stop. We go, it doesn't make sense. You look at the brain, it's designed for one thing, it's survival. So when you're tired, why would you not stop? Particularly for you guys, it's not like you're running anywhere. It's just you're running all over the place. It's not everywhere. So it's not like... Exactly, but so it comes back to, okay, when it gets hard, what's my response to that? So, and again, it's about training that and getting used to the response. Okay, so when it gets hard, well, I love this challenge. I'm really going to embrace this. This is what I want to do. And you've actually got to then, you talk about negative self-talk, positive self-talk, but it has to be productive self-talk where you guys want to go. So really, what I want to get out of this and what I'm going to do. And again, you start getting that conversation going, it means the other stuff sits there. So always still wants to come in, but then you keep doing that consistently enough, then you get back into that flow state for a period of time. You may stay in it, you might then pop out of it, but it's the ability to kind of, answer the question when the brain starts going, hey, this is getting hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we stand on the start line, when we look to do these events and challenge ourselves, like sometimes it's my big event and I really want to do that. That's a thing that I'm doing. But also we do sort of build up events and other bits and pieces. And hey, we might sort of say it's just for fun, but I'm standing next to Angus and I really want to beat him. I don't know, who wouldn't? So I mean, how do we deal with that sort of, I guess it's the performance element, it's the expectation of myself and expectations of others, because at the end of the day, we're going to have a finish line and these are the results. What are some things that we can do around managing that? Because otherwise you end up just not doing events, not going to do these. And that's actually part of the enjoyment, the fun of sitting at the finish line going, oh, wasn't that awesome? And just relaxing and all those sorts of things is part of that.
Yeah, look, a couple of things. Again, I'll go back to that language. Once you start saying it's a big event, you create the expectations around it. So if you can see every event as it's another opportunity to get better. So from a team aspect, often we talk about selection versus performance. So if your focus is on selection, you can't control that. So if your focus is on beating Angus, you've got no control of that, because he could rock up one day, tell me back the night before, had a duty carry, doesn't feel great, you beat him, think, oh, wow, I'm awesome, I beat him. Well, he was probably only getting 50%. So then next day...
I'll have my whole excuses book out by then, so don't worry. He won't think he's actually by the end of it.
Yeah. But the next day, he eats really well, sleeps well, and he beats you, and you start going, oh, God, I'm not very good now. So you want to have your measurements and things you can control. As much as it's nice to have a bit of competition and banter, once you compare yourself to someone else, well, you flip a coin with how you're going to go, because you can't control how Angus will go basically around it. So what you can do is break the race down to things you can control. So it could be around certain times you want to hit. It could be around some technical stuff you want to work on. Those are the controllables. And again, I'm going to be very cliche with this, but you've got to fall in love with the process. You love the process of getting better. Now, that better will look for different people, different events, and different abilities around it. But if that's what drives you, in the sense of today, I got 2 seconds better on my getting off the bike or the road bit, with the uphill bit was so much better because I worked on that. That's where we want to get the satisfaction from, that real internal stuff, not the external stuff we can't control. So if you do win, that's kind of your hundreds and thousands on top of your cake. But the actual race and your process is actual cakes. The cake still tastes really nice, because I gave it all I could today and did with it. If I win, that's your hundreds and thousands, happy days. But as you know, not everyone can win around it. So again, we spend a lot of time with athletes going, well, what can you control? Which sounds really simple, but when we can't control it and we're out of control, and that's a goal, that starts impacting on our confidence and our mindset where we're going. And it's the same, if you wanted to beat Angus, next minute he starts racing, he takes off, suddenly you go, oh my God, my race plan's out the window, I'm going to take off after him. Instead of then trusting your race plan and sticking to what you're going to do, it's a lot easier than getting caught up with other people. So to answer your question very long-windedly, it's coming back to what you're looking to do. Have the competitions and enjoy that, but don't use that as your measurement, because otherwise it's you can't control it. And if they could, Angus tomorrow could have the best race he's ever had in his whole life, but guess what? So could you. But you might come second to it, and then you walk away going, "Oh, I'm so disappointed."
Where do you see, John, the importance of post-race or even post-training analysis of data for a start, and just general well-being, or how you feel? Like we're talking about exactly what you say there, is that I may have had this scenario go on, and so Richard's beat me, or the next day it's the reverse, but actually his performance has actually been the same or better each day. So do you see a real importance in actually doing a self-debrief at the end of these things?
Look, I think it's massive. You got to pre-brief before you debrief. So that's the same, having real clarity of what your goal is for the race. Because otherwise what happens, if you're not really clear on what your goals are, then if you win the race, the debrief is like, oh, it was awesome, that's great. And then next race, you don't win, and the next minute we debrief the hell out of it. So the old quote, you don't gain an experience by having an experience. You only gain the experience by reflecting on it. And I think the key thing, every time you train, you should spend a couple of minutes, right, what did I learn today? There's the questions. What did I learn? What went well? What maybe surprised me? What did I learn today that I can bring into my training tomorrow? And really looking at it from the positive lens, because we're very good at looking at things that haven't gone well. But every time you train, it doesn't matter how bad you think the training went, there will be a positive there that went well. And it could be, I just persevered today. It was a tough training, but I persevered. So what I learned about myself is when it gets hard, this is what I do. Races, that's the same thing. The ability to kind of go, right, here's my 2 or 3 goals. That's all you need the most. And then the ability at the end of it, go, okay, well, remember, goals aren't pass fail. All goals are is ability to reflect on, this is what I wanted to achieve, and this is what I did achieve. And then you ask the question, so if I did achieve them, why did I do it? If I didn't achieve them, it's the same question, why? And if you can keep doing that, that's the learning part, and that's the bit we need to get really good at, because that's how we get better. If we don't learn anything, then we do fail, basically.
Absolutely. And that's, as you say, like reflecting on it and then just making a note of that. So then I take that learning and I can continue to go forward. Because if I, like, we've got our online training plans and things, like if that's your place, that's great. And then you can look at it as well. If it's a written notebook, great. Then you can look back and reflect and see where you've come from and what your challenges are now.
Yep, definitely. And there's a lot of athletes who I work with. I always encourage them to write it down. There's certainly some who don't enjoy it. So sometimes they just get their phone out and they're talking to their phone and they send me a WhatsApp going, right, here's my goal for this race or this tournament, whatever I'm doing. And they send it through. Then once they're finished, they then send me through their reflection. And then the key part to that, as you said then before, Richard, is then having a chat to your coach. Okay, what did you see? This is what I thought I was doing. And that's where you get the learning experience. And then you go, right, this is the one really key thing I want to keep doing. And this is maybe something this week I want to get better at, whatever it is. But it allows you then to structure your week and your training around it. So, look, yeah, to answer your question, Angus, yeah, really, really important.
Yeah, brilliant. John, you work, as we said right at the start, with all different teams, like from a high performance level to corporates and all sorts of things and individuals. How do people get in touch with you? What is that possible? Can I come and talk to you?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah, look, definitely. I mean, probably the best way, we've got a website, Performance Wellbeing, is just send through an inquiry through there. And as I said, we're really lucky. We've got some really good people there who we all work with different people. And in the day, for us, it's around performance, and whether that's winning the race or managing your work or whatever it is. So we do work within the corporate industry, and we work individually with people one-on-one as well as small teams. So, and look, the reality is what I've learned is we're all the same. You know, you touched on before, Angus, about nerves. We all get nervous. You know, the conversation I'd have with a 14-year-old is the same conversation I'd have with an All Black or a Black Cap or a Silver Fern. It's all the same stuff. We all want to perform, and we know that sometimes our head can get in the way of that sometimes.
Brilliant. That's awesome, John. Fantastic. One last piece of advice as a parting comment.
Oh, look, you kind of touched on it before. We've got to enjoy this. I can't stress that enough. I think the adults have taken fun out of sport a wee bit the last 20 years, and we need to put the fun back into sport. And most of us played sport for fun. And if we can go back to that and remind yourself, whatever you do, whether you make teams or don't make teams or whatever it is, just enjoy it. Life's too short not to enjoy it. And if you win, that's great. But again, as I said, redefine winning and make it fun, and you'll do well in your sport.
Brilliant. Well done, John. Thanks for your energy.
Brilliant.
Thanks for your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated.
So good,
thanks,
John.
guys.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Perfect. Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Thank you. Catch up soon. See ya. Well done, Angus.
Gosh darn that there, Richard. That was absolutely insightful, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, that's disappointing because now you've probably learned a few things that you're going to be harder to beat now.
Well, actually, I was just thinking about that, Richard, and your determination to beat me, and I've got an actual cure for that. Actually, to take that away from you. So I was thinking, you know, there's only one way to take away that need to beat me, and that's to team back up with me again.
Oh, you know that makes it even worse. I want to beat you even more.
I think we should probably stop that conversation there before you commit to something that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's dangerous. Very dangerous.
But also on that, you know, with John there, get in touch with him. You know, mental well-being, the whole thing. There's so much to that can help and aid in not only your race or training, but just general everyday life. But at the same time, Richard, to stress the importance of yourself as a coach for Team CP and all your other coaches. And I know, speaking with you know, a lot of your other coaches, with James and everybody, that they actually do a similar thing for a lot of their athletes. Not only are you getting a training plan and a guide to help you get to that next level, you guys are actually already doing a lot of this and actually working with your athletes and helping them through these times.
Yeah, I think it's just a chance to reflect and have someone to bounce some ideas off that's in your corner, and give you somewhere to reflect and give you some feedback, and help you figure it out for yourself is often the way. Like, nobody's got the answers, but I think if we can pull that learning from your experience and feed that, and then you can figure that out for yourself, then you've got ownership from it, and away you go. So 100%, I think that's super key, and that's the really valuable stuff, and why we enjoy doing what we do.
Good. Now, our next guest, I've got something I just need to, just before we bring her on, we're going back to Cushla's Corner. It's always great to have her here, but I know Cushla's listening in the background, and guess what I've remembered? I have remembered to refuel, repair, and rehydrate, Cushla.
Oh, fantastic. What are the odds of that?
Yay! I was actually going to spend the first few seconds just going over that again, because I listened to last week's back, and I'm always thinking, oh no, I left out information that I should have included. Here's
your little window.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, speaking of windows, I was going to just touch on the window of opportunity. So last week I touched on that briefly, and then I got off on a tangent and didn't really come back to clarify what I was talking about. So with the 3 R's, the refuel, repair, and rehydrate, I talked about the window of opportunity being like that 60-minute period that people worry about after training. And generally with recovery, I wouldn't call it a window. It's actually more like a big entranceway. Recovery doesn't just turn off at 60 minutes. It goes on for hours and even days after training. And for people who are training regularly, you're pretty much in a constant state of recovery and repair and adaptation. So just to retouch on those points that are important for that window, where it's a bit different would be if you've been in a fasted state. So you've gotten up first thing in the morning, you've gone out for a run, then that 30 to 60 minute window is really important. If you're hungry, eat. If you struggle to meet your energy needs because you have a really high training load, or if you have another training session sort of within a 12-hour window of that training, then it's really, I guess it's more essential to, try and get it within that 60-minute period. But if you've trained and you're pretty well fed, then, having a meal or a snack within a couple of hours after the training is probably fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just wanted to clarify that because I was worried I didn't really finish up.
No, that's right. I mean, hey, anyway, there's some good learning from last week because Angus either had the notes already written down from last week or potentially he's learned something. So that's promising. So, Cushla, we were talking mental skills tonight.
The nutritionist, Richard.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, there was some good food going on as recovery or repair earlier as well, just before the show too. So we've been talking mental skills. So thinking along those sort of lines in regards to, I mean, the mental element of nutrition is massive, isn't it? And that's probably one of the key spaces you try and work with to give people ideas of how to do stuff and I mean that whole dieting bit, the confidence side of things. Tell us a few things along those lines. What do you sort of wanted to share?
Yeah, definitely. Diet culture, it's such an interesting topic and it's something I feel very passionate about. I could probably spend hours talking about diet culture, to be honest.
Or maybe we'll plug the next 15 episodes in and we'll just put up 5 minutes today and then just keep opening it up.
I'll be brief, or I'll try to be, but it's so ingrained in society. I think we are all very used to it and it's just not okay. And it is unfortunate that we're called dietitians because diet is in our name, and actually many dietitians in my era are very, very anti-diets. And I always, when I first meet a client, I like to say, look, I'm not the food police. I'm not here to tell you all the things you can't eat or put you on some crazy diet. In fact, people are often surprised at many of the strategies we work through. It's adding in more foods and more of the right foods. It's not about taking out lots of foods.
Do you have a new name? Like, have you got a new name that you come up with, or is that something for next week and something to think on for the week instead of dietitian?
No, well, it's a legally protected name, so we can't exactly change that. And I wouldn't want to be called a nutritionist because I'm a dietitian. So I'll just have to.
You're welcome to have your own name here with us, Cushla. We're family here, and you're welcome to call yourself what you like.
We do call ourselves non-diet dietitians.
That's challenging. So what are some of the things that we can do around this space in terms of, I guess it's having confidence to do what I do and enjoy my food?
Yeah, so I guess with diet culture, it pretty much tells us if we lose weight, we will be healthier. If we eliminate food groups, we'll feel better. If we're thin, we're successful. And it also tells us that people in smaller bodies or who are thin don't have to worry about their health. They don't have to worry about nutrition or sleep or stress management or mental well-being because they're thin, so therefore they must be healthy. And of course, that's so far from the truth. But that's what diet culture tells us. And diet culture, it's a $60 billion industry because they make money off you feeling pretty much crap about yourself. And then you pay money to go on a diet. It doesn't work. And then you pay more money to go on another diet. And diet culture, like I said, it's very ingrained in our society. And I think there's many aspects that we probably live through day to day that we're not even consciously aware of, but they actually quite obvious signs of diet culture. So I actually was sitting down before and I just jotted down a few things. So if you're okay, I'll sort of go through a few, and I feel like a lot of people listening will probably be sitting there nodding and agreeing with a lot of the things I bring up, and feel free to jump in too. So diet cultures like labeling foods as good and bad, and then, saying you're good or bad for eating those foods. It's eliminating entire food groups. So often, carbs are evil or fat's bad. Protein's often, I've never heard of protein being a baddie, actually. Protein's always a good one. Following external cues rather than your internal cues. So saying you have to eat at a certain time, a certain food, and a certain amount, rather than going, I'm hungry now, this is what I feel like, and this is how much I feel like eating. Feeling guilty for eating and eating certain types of food.
Which is a big one, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If you're paying for supplements and powders, you must be healthy because you're paying money for those things, and you know they're marketed as saving all sorts of things about your health. Avoiding certain social situations if it revolves around different types of food or restaurants. Focusing more on your appearance. Feeling unworthy because your body doesn't meet society's standards of beauty, which are often totally unrealistic. What else? I guess dictating your happiness or how you feel in the day based off your weight, which is just your relationship with gravity. Exercising to compensate for food intake or as punishment rather than for enjoyment or to get stronger or better. And this is a common one, like I'll start again Monday.
Yeah. It's great during Monday to Friday, but then the weekend goes to pieces.
Yeah. And often something I hear people talk about is they'll say, they fell off the bandwagon, so they just went crazy and ate everything. But I often talk with them about, if you smash a dinner plate in the kitchen, you don't go, oh no, and start smashing them all. You clean it up and then you get another plate and you carry on.
Yes,
but people often just give up and, go crazy and eat everything in sight, and then they'll start again Monday.
That's a great analogy. That's really good.
Yeah.
Just on that, Cushla, we've got this little diagram here. Do you want to talk us through a bit of that about this sort of?
I was just going to go over that actually. So this is what I call the diet bin cycle, and this is pretty much what diet culture will end up getting you on. So pretty much you go on a diet, you restrict, and then you feel really deprived. You become preoccupied with food, you have food cravings, you're probably going to be starving hungry. So you break from the diet, and then because you've done that, you feel like you've failed and, all or nothing thinking. So again, that dinner plate analogy. So then you binge and you overeat, and then you feel really crap about yourself, self-loathing, and then you believe, of course, weight loss is going to make everything better and make you happier. So then you go on some other crazy diet, and it continues. And honestly, some people I meet in my clinics, I've been doing this for years, like decades even, and they're really, really damaged from diet culture, and it takes a lot of work to undo that mindset. It doesn't happen overnight, that's for sure.
No, it's years worth of work to undo all those years worth of building and thinking along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How much of? Sorry, carry on, Cushla.
You go.
How much of diet culture is commercially driven?
Most of it. And I also think what's exacerbated it would be social media as well. Like, social media is great and it definitely serves a purpose. But in terms of the unrealistic standards of beauty and kind of the misinformation out there and trying to sell products, I think it's made it so much worse. So that's always something I talk about with clients as well who might be, having difficulty with body image or disordered eating, is just unfollow anything that provokes negative emotions, and follow all the things that make you happy or are positive and sending the right messages. Don't follow an influencer who has a six-pack of abs and apparently they know what they're talking about when they have no nutritional backing or anything. So really be careful who you follow and who you listen to for advice.
Very good. Very good.
There's another picture there that was my favourite that you sent through, Cushla.
The donut. Look at that. Just she's telling us we're good to go here, Richard.
I had one of these exact donuts on Monday night as well. So talk me through that one, Cushla. With Bella, my daughter, we were waiting for Nate to finish football practice. So we're like, let's go to Copeland to get a couple of donuts each.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. And you know what? I always like to say that a healthy diet is flexible, and it's including a little bit of everything. And like I said, it's not labeling foods as good or bad. It's just making sure that you're having nourishing foods most of the time that makes you feel good, but including things like your donut with your daughter every now and again, like that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. No, it was that sprinkles as well.
Yeah, just coming back to that picture, if you can bring it back up, there is a book I would recommend highly to everyone. It's fantastic. I think I listened to it on Audible in about 2 days. But yeah, it's all about, I guess, around diet culture and lots of sort of thought-provoking messages and a few exercises in there as well that definitely makes you think differently around sort of what society's told us we should be. So yeah, I loved that book. I thought it was great. And also in that book, she recommends a lot of other books to read if you're wanting more. And yeah.
So just on that, I was just going to say that for our podcast listeners, for people that are listening in, what is it?
Oh, sorry for the pod. Yeah, it's true. So it's the book's called Just Eat It, and it's by Laura Thomas.
Perfect.
Yeah, sorry, I forget that this is a podcast as well.
Good thinking, Captain. Look at you go there. Hey, you're on.
Good stuff. So, Cushla, any sort of last sort of comments to wrap up in terms of, I mean, the big first part of it is awareness, isn't it? And understanding sort of what my thinking is doing. And so that's the first part. But what are one or two key things as takeaways that people could sort of summarize what you've talked about?
I guess just it's really hard to avoid diet culture. Like I even find like it might be in your workplace at lunchtime and things like everyone's, you know, they might be talking about diets or what they're doing or, oh, I shouldn't eat that. That's so bad. And it's actually almost hard to avoid it, but just trying to, I guess, remove or not removing people, but if people are bringing on negative thoughts and, you know, they're really obsessed with diet culture, I guess just being mindful of how much influence they're having on you, particularly if people are making comments around your weight or your food intake or anything like that. And if you are like struggling or feel like you're just stuck in the diet cycle trap, like absolutely that's something that we help with as dietitians. So yeah, please do reach out. As my name goes, I am a dietitian, but we do definitely help with that sort of thing. We aren't the food police.
Absolutely, and it is about being organised as well, isn't it? And then you've got your wee plan, and then I can just focus on what I'm doing rather than other people. Just like John was saying earlier in regards to sport and performance, it's exactly the same thing with nutrition as well, isn't it?
Yeah, don't compare yourself to others. It doesn't get you anywhere. Yeah.
Brilliant. Enjoy your food.
Thank you for joining us again. It is time to put you back in your lunchbox until next week. So, as always, thank you for joining. We look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yeah, thanks for your feedback, Cushla. And for those people that are listening in, if you've got any other key questions that you want us or Cushla to answer, just feel free to throw your comments up and share them with us either now or during the week.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Well done. Thanks, Eve. Good job. Well done, Angus. We're on a fire tonight.
Well, aren't we? We're just rolling with it. So
maybe it's a good company we're keeping.
Oh yeah, I think so. Go well as a team, Richard. As a team. See where this is going.
Right, shall we roll on? Keep moving. I think you said before.
Roll on to another stage.
Yes, Paul, are you there?
Yes, Richard, here I am.
Yeah, brilliant. Great to be able to catch up with you, Paul. So you're one of our Team CP athletes. How long have you been with us, working with Penelope specifically?
Oh, it's nearly 2.5 years now. Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly, and you've had plenty of fun.
Yes,
Comrades Marathon's been a big thing that you've done, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that. That's something you're very dear to your heart, and a bunch of people might not know a whole lot about.
Yes, so the Comrades Marathon is the oldest road ultra marathon in the world. So the first race was in 1921. It's in South Africa. They run it each year in alternative directions. Yeah. So it's on the east coast of South Africa. It started off after the First World War in memory of the fallen soldiers. And it's grown from a field of 35 athletes to 35,000 now. So it's just huge.
Doing an ultra marathon. Yes. That's insane. How far is it?
It's about 90 Ks.
90 Ks, 35,000. Yes. Angus, sign you. Should we sign? No?
Yeah, no, I'm always keen to take the CP Media global, Richard.
Yeah, good on you. Wow, that's fantastic. And so, Paul, tell us your background. What have you done? Like, how many times have you done this event?
This unfortunately would have been my third year, but then COVID-19 happened, so the race has been cancelled. Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, I went back last year with Jamie Hawker, my club mate from Port Hills Athletics.
Yes.
And it's been a massive experience. Jamie couldn't believe the amount of support. Just on the day, there's about 500,000 people supporting you on the route.
Brilliant,
So it's just huge. It's an absolute must-do for all endurance athletes.
Fantastic. But it's not a hey, 90K, 35,000 people. It's a walk in the park and everyone's going to finish and hold hands and skip across the finish line, is it? It's pretty brutal at the finish line. What happens there?
It is brutal. So you've got 12 hours of gun time. So the gun goes 5:30 in the morning and 5:30 at night. So the first runner and the last runner have got exactly the same 12 hours.
Wow.
And at 5:30 when they close the course, so they've got a person, normally a celebrity, standing with his back towards the oncoming runners. And 5:30 he just shoots the gun. And if you haven't crossed the finish line, you're not finished, and you get to listen the last post. You get to hear the last post. That's how brutal it is.
And you don't get a medal. And if you're you run around a track, I think, to at the end, don't you? So you can see where the finish line is, and they'll be counting you down.
Yes, and there's about off the 35,000, there's about 20% of the athletes don't finish, and about 50% of the field come in the last hour. So it's absolute chaos in the last hour.
Right. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, good stuff. That's brilliant. So you've done this a couple of times. How did it go last time?
So last time went well. I finished in 10 hours 44. I was pretty happy with that.
Great.
I helped Jamie. Jamie was ahead of me for most of the race, but I helped him. He was going through a dark patch when I caught up with him. So I supported him for a while, and we then finished. Yep. So I'm pretty happy with that. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really rewarding, is it? Supporting a friend. Jamie's obviously the Crater Run Ultra person that organises that, so he's a fantastic guy, and you feel pretty happy with doing that getting across the finish line together.
Oh yeah, he's a great friend of mine, and that's what the spirit of comrades is all about. It's about supporting each other and making sure you finish.
Yeah, brilliant.
This is amazing. I've never heard of this before, to be fair, before Richard, you told me about Paul coming on. And I've just got a couple of comments popping up here from Lisa saying, Comrades Marathon equals world's best. It changed my outlook on life forever. But Paul and
absolutely.
Hey?
Absolutely. I can't agree more with Lisa. That's absolutely spot on.
Well, what about her next comment? Because her next one's a real doozy here. The real finish time was always 11 hours until the year 2000, when it was made 12 hours. Lisa goes on to say that, but I still believe everyone should finish in 11 hours to say they finished.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's what I said to Jamie. He felt a bit bad when he finished, and I said to him, "Look, you finished within 11 hours, so you are a true comrades finisher. You finished the original comrades." Yes, that's correct.
Yep. Good job.
So
brilliant.
So in 2000, they've extended the finishing time as well as they allowed. They changed because you need to pre-qualify. So they then said in 2000 you have to finish a full marathon in under 5 hours. So they changed the qualifying, the finishing time, as well as the qualifying requirements.
To allow that. So where are you at the moment, Paul?
Yes.
You're not able to go to South Africa this year due to COVID. So you've got some other. You're not one to sit back and have a holiday. You're like, right, let's ramp things up a bit faster. So what are you up to at the moment?
Yes. So this year has been interesting. So during lockdown, obviously all the races were cancelled. So I ran a full marathon on my own, not in my backyard. No, I set my car out up as an aid station outside, and I wanted to push myself and see what I can do. So I ran my third fastest full marathon in lockdown. So I'm pretty happy with that.
No traffic to contend with. You can just do your own thing.
No, it was during level 4, so it was good.
Yeah, good.
And then Jamie and I were going to pace the 2 hours in the Christchurch half marathon.
Yep.
But that obviously didn't happen. So on the day of the Christchurch marathon, I ran a half marathon out in Lincoln with Jamie. Jamie was support, and I ran that with another friend who's also Jamie. And I wanted to see how fast I can run a half marathon. So I'm pretty happy that I improved my time by about 11 minutes. So it's pretty good.
PB by 11 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the final time was
94 minutes. 94 minutes.
An hour 34. Good job. That's
Yes.
impressive. Cool. So obviously got a bit of a spring in your step, Paul. Things are going well.
Yes, it is. So Penelope and I are now working towards Auckland. So the next goal is to do Auckland, because I said to her the other day, the problem now is my full marathon times don't line up with my half marathon time. So I've got to work on that.
You've got to do something about that, don't you? Absolutely.
Yes.
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
fantastic, Paul. So what's the goal for Auckland? What are you going to try and shoot for?
Hoping to get close to my fastest, which is a 3 hour 22. So hopefully I can get back to that sort of time again.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. I've said to a number of people is that I've only ever run one marathon. Just basically tick the box. Dunedin Marathon. It was a horrendous day. I was drafting with another guy because on the way in round the harbour, it actually made a difference because it was a squally southerly. And I run 3:19. Tick the box. Moved on. And I've said to a few people that if you can beat 3:19, I'll run another one. So I shouldn't have said that, but it's just I'll throw it out there. Since you're 3:22 and you're knocking on the door, so if you can run under 3:19, Paul, I'll strap my boots on and try and run another one.
Right. Well, you have to run a full marathon to qualify for the Comrades next time. So you have to do it.
There we
And
go.
Richard, I'm also hoping that Penelope's listening out there too, because I think between Penelope and Paul, your running shoes are going to get a hiding.
We might just make sure this isn't happening. No one sort of hears this. But anyway, we'll see. There we go, Paul. There's a bit of extra motivation for you.
Good on you.
Very good.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks for joining us, Paul. Much appreciated. All the best for your running adventures, and looking forward to cheering on and seeing how you get on.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Richard.
Good job. Well done. Thank you.
Cheers. See you.
Well done, Angus.
Comrades, I've just been doing a bit of research while I've been sitting here, and what an event!
Yeah, incredible, isn't it? I didn't know really of it until Paul come along and sort of explained and shared his experiences and things like that. So yeah, pretty amazing, just the amount of people and what they do and how long it's been running for as well, for that long. So ultra running is a bit of a like it's probably last 5 or 10 years, really, isn't it? It started to really take off, but that's been running since 1920 odd. Yeah.
Well,
Impressive.
speaking of great events, Richard, speaking of great events that are going on out there at the moment, there is a CP trig bagging collection going on out there at the moment.
There is. So we wanted to keep we did a whole bunch of different challenges across the lockdown period, one every week. So we wanted to keep that going, but just kind of take it down a bit of a notch, and also give people who are shift workers and working across the weekend to the opportunity to get involved. So we've got this trig bagging competition. It's probably halfway through now. We've been running it. It's 2 weekends. So we've done the first weekend into the second weekend this week. And we've got a few different options in terms of how to get involved. So how many trigs can you bag is the number one, and then also, hey, the more trigs you bag, every time you put a photo of yourself at a trig, you'll go in the draw to win a pure sport nutrition prize pack as well that they've gifted to us to give out. So every time you do that, but don't be like Jan Sipple and just take a photo of the trig and then assume you've been there. Make sure your face is in it as well, please.
Brilliant. So I've got some.
What have you got there?
So we just want a couple of special mentions out there. One, first of all, Darren.
Yep. Darren de Groot, just a bit like the Everest challenge, went a bit crazy with it. He was out there today, sent me a message to say, this is the job that I've got. And that's what he got done today. So all over the place, isn't he? In Christchurch, all across the Port Hills, bagging those trigs. So he's easily in double figures, just as today's mission. Looks
like he's about 11 deep there. And then he actually stars in this and the next one coming up here in a second too. But let's just jump to here quickly.
Yep, and it would.
Now I want you, Richard, just to take note of that trig there for a second.
Yes, I've got that.
Right, and then Darren's back.
Yeah, it's exactly the same trig. Is it the same tagging that you did there?
And this was sent in by Brett, and I'm just looking at the tagging on there, and it's almost looking like it's a competition to have your photo taken at that one particular trig.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you have to try and see if you can find that particular trig this weekend, Angus. Maybe that's your job.
Oh, geez, have you seen the weather coming?
Exactly. That makes it more adventurous, doesn't it?
My snowshoes to get there, I think.
Yeah, good. Fantastic.
Lastly, tell me about this one.
Yes, so these guys, so they've been all over the place. Girls, sorry, have well, they must be up to about 10 trigs or something. So 5 and have been up to Hamner and all over the place, haven't they?
They have indeed, and so popping up there together, doing it in a team environment there, Richard,
Yes.
and doing a great job. So, been a successful week of trig bagging going on out there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's cool. So get involved in it. Manage yourself. Look after yourself in regards to the weather. Not all trigs are up high, so do a bit of research and see what you can find.
Totally.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Well,
Thank you for clicking the buttons and keeping us honest tonight, Angus.
Oh, I think we've done good tonight, Richard. That's been great chat. Some absolute quality stars as always.
And what's your key learning to take away tonight?
That I can get inside your head.
And for my learning, it's just to smile. Just to smile and just nod. Yeah, exactly. Right. And is that all you've got?
That way, actually thinking about the courage thing really more than anything, and having the courage to deal with all the things that you're thrown at along the way and the challenges, and I think a really good first step.
Yes, absolutely. No, John, lots of good stuff, and also with what Cushla was talking to as well in regards to the nutrition side of things and the diet culture, to be aware of that and reach out if you need a bit of a hand, because there's a lot of people battling out in regards to that, and you don't have to enjoy your food and enjoy what you do and walk forward to those challenges.
200%, Richard. 200%.
All righty, over and out.
So join us again, everybody. Same bat channel, same bat time next week. As always, this will be up on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow. Get onto YouTube, check out Team CP NZ, hit subscribe, hit the like button, the bell to get all the notifications. All our previous episodes and the current ones are all hitting for your favorite podcast with podcast app, whether that be Anchor, Spotify, Apple. It's there, it's everywhere. Search CP Media Endurance. You should find us there.
Brilliant. Till next week.
Over and out.